I had to go downtown a couple of weeks ago to get a permit, something that you can't get online. You have to apply in person, but it's only $5. And the only reason they would reject you from getting this permit, the only reason they would not give you this permit is if you were an admitted escaped serial killer. One of the questions they ask you on the form is, are you a fugitive from justice? But if you were an actual fugitive from justice, you wouldn't go to a government office to apply for a permit. And if you were a fugitive from justice and you did go to a government office to apply for a permit, you wouldn't answer yes to that question. But I ended up getting off at the wrong bus stop. I had to walk a couple of blocks to get to the permit place. And while I was walking there, I passed by a magic shop. I didn't go in on the way there, but I did go in on the way back. It looked like the kind of magic shop where you buy entry-level magic tricks and other card tricks. But then they had this room in the back and they said it was for members only. When I asked what it took to be a member, the lady looked at me kind of sideways for a little bit. I was thinking that maybe this was more of an upscale shop, where you could maybe learn magic tricks if you wanted to become a professional magician, where you could make money doing magic. But then she told me something odd. We'll give you a test, and if you pass, you can become a member. But if you don't pass, you can never come back here again. I thought that was kind of strange, but I guess it makes sense. People that do magic for a living are very secretive about their tricks. So I came back, and the test was nothing like I expected. And the actual activities inside this club were also nothing like I expected. It was an occult group led by an active judge, an occult group that summons dark spirits and uses them to murder people. But the people they murder have it coming, and they only call it murder because it happens outside of the irreversibly corrupt legal system. The people they murder are very successful criminals with very expensive attorneys. And because they have expensive lawyers, even if they are guilty, even if there's evidence that proves their guilt, they still get off. But the reasons they get off are not like most people suspect. The reason they get off is usually believed to be a simple matter of economics, that expensive attorneys are much better at their craft than government employees. The expensive attorneys have tons of money and tons of resources, while government attorneys are getting 50 grand a year and still using computers with Windows 7. But that's not the reason. Most district attorneys, most government attorneys eventually want to work in the private market because that's where the money is. But the private attorney market is incredibly corrupt. And any government attorney, any district attorney that doesn't lose on purpose will forever be blackballed. That's why expensive attorneys always keep their criminal clients from ever going to jail, because the district attorneys lose on purpose. They lose on purpose because if they don't, they'll never make more than $100,000 a year. So what this judge does is he gets criminals that have DNA evidence. They need the DNA evidence to do the murder ritual. He gets their DNA and uses it along with a lot of other occult equipment to make a black candle. Once they have the black candle with the criminal DNA and the wax, then they do the ceremony. The ceremony is a two-part ceremony. The first part is to link the candle flame to the life of the criminal. Once that part is done, then they move on to the second part, which is to extinguish the flame. There were 4 people seated at the table and the rest of us standing around the outside. When they started the ceremony, I could feel a very strong, very evil energy, a very strong evil presence enter the room. Nobody touched the flame. Nobody touched the candle. Nobody touched the table. But the entity in the room, this ancient evil power, snuffed out all light in the room. For a brief moment, it was just pure darkness, pure evil darkness. And before I left, the lady who gave me the test told me that I was forever bound to this ceremony, that I had to participate every single time or else my life would be extinguished. That was the test she gave me. I had to sit in a room silently with this very old woman. All she did was stare at me, but she knew everything about me. At the time, I thought she was testing me to see if I was pure, to see if I was worthy, but now I know better. She was testing me to see if I was a satisfactory host for the spirit, the entity that extinguished the flame, the entity that needs to work through other humans in the room to be able to murder humans. I needed to come back to the permit place a week later to pick up my permit. Another shining example of government inefficiency in action. But this time I came back a little bit later. But behind the courthouse, they had this huge night market on Friday and Saturday nights. Really good stuff. Lots of fried food. Lots of people walking around with open containers right next to a park. You could walk around at night, load up on delicious fried food, load up on all kinds of beer and wine, and then hang out in the park and get hammered.